Okay, let me know when you go live.
We're live.
Oh, wonderful. Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Manser. I'm the Senior Research Scientist at the Texas A&M Transportation Institute, and I'll be hosting this morning's session. If we're all in the right place, the title of this breakout session is How Motorcyclists Are Helped at the National Level. And when you think of the brainchild for this session, it was me. And you can, if you don't like the session at the end, you can throw stones at me. But one of the things I've really noticed in the last couple of years is that there are a lot of activities that go on in motorcycle rider safety on the national level that do percolate down to our riding here in Texas and other riders in other states. But we don't often see that connection between what we're doing on a day-to-day basis and what's happening on a national level. And we have two really wonderful organizations on the national level that are strong advocates for riding safety. And we have two representatives here, one from each of those organizations, one from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and then another representative from the Federal Highways Administration. So really today's goal is to kind of get a better understanding of what those organizations are doing in rider safety. And then if there's a chance to really tie that into kind of some of the things that we see going on here in Texas. So we have different campaigns that happen on a national level that are helped here in Texas. For example, we have road signs that we see on the side of the road that are either they're motorcycle specific signs or they're signs that maybe they're not motorcycle specific, but the design characteristics of the sign, where it's placed, etc., do consider motorcycle riders. So those are some examples of things that happen that we don't often really appreciate the role of these two federal agencies in helping us become safer riders. So first I want to introduce Michelle Atwell. She's the chief of the Safety Countermeasures Division at NHTSA. We're really fortunate because Michelle oversees many of the traffic safety programs, and motorcycle safety is one of those, but she also oversees pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, and a number of other programs as well. So her perspective in rider safety is really going to be a benefit today. So Michelle, I'm going to turn it over to you. If anybody's looking for a longer bio, again, they can be found when you go back to the auditorium under a session. You'll see the names and you can click on that name and Michelle's full information can be found there. So, Michelle?
Wonderful, Michael. Thank you so much. Hopefully my volume is good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the invitation to speak today at the Texas Motorcycle Safety Forum. We're super excited to share what's happening at the national level. Michael, as you said, it necessarily doesn't correlate to the actions that's happening at the federal level. We are, unfortunately, we can't hear you all in person today. You know, I think the last year has proved to us that we can do a lot more virtual than we expected. I am getting a little bit of feedback, Michael. I don't know if that's on your end. I don't have anything over here.
Yeah, I don't hear any feedback on this side.
Okay, good. So we'll keep rolling. Hopefully the participants can hear this okay. But as I was saying, you know, it really is a great opportunity for us to be here with you all today. Again, unfortunately, we can't be in there in person with you all. And unfortunately, the motorcycle expert within my office, LaCheryl Jones, was unfortunately unable to make it due to a last minute conflict. So again, as Michael said, we're going to talk a little bit about motorcycle safety on the national level today. Super excited that my colleague at Federal Highway could be here also to join us this morning. And thank you for not boring us with the bio too, Michael. Appreciate that. So I wanted to put this slide up here. This is LaCheryl Jones. She's a highway safety specialist within my office, the Safety Countermeasures Division. This is our resident motorcycle expert. This is the individual that you all will get to know. She joined NHTSA. We were so excited for her to join our team back in July this past summer. She comes from the Maryland Department of Transportation, which is where I come from prior to my time at NHTSA. So we're super excited to be a part of this conference today. As you all see, a lot of the work that is being done at Texas DOT is also being done at United States Department of Transportation. Our mission is very similar to that of Texas DOT and all of our safety partners, and it really is to save lives and prevent injuries, reduce economic costs due to traffic road crashes. And how we do that is through multi-level collaborative efforts with our stakeholders through education, research, safety standards, and enforcement. I'm going to talk a little bit today about what the data says. Anyone that's familiar with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration knows that we are very data-driven. We take a look at the data, we break the data down, and we determine what those countermeasures will look like according to what the data tells us. So this is our latest traffic safety fact sheet from 2018. Unfortunately, as we all know, the data is not live time. It does take a little bit of time for us to get that data, but we're fortunate enough that we do have good data when it comes to motorcycle safety. Obviously, there's always room for improvement, and that's one of the ways that LaSure will help our agency to expand, is really taking a look at what our data collection is now and how we can expand that data set. So I wanted to bring your attention to a few motorcycle safety links and resources that we have available at NHTSA. TrafficSafetyMarketing.gov is our website that hosts all of our educational materials for our stakeholders. These materials are free of charge. There's no cost to them. We ask that you spread the message, spread the resources, use those as you see fit. We've had some really great examples, as you all know, and you'll hear me talk about this a little bit later on in the presentation. May is Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month. I'm sure that you all know that. So we ask that you take advantage of these resources that are available to you free of charge and spread the word. You know, there's social media assets on that page. There's also videos that can be shared. And we just ask that you really, really take a look at that website. Our main page, NHTSA.gov, Road Safety and Motorcycle Safety. We also, that page is more for our motoring public, and it has a wealth of information and data on there, as well as NTSA website. Make sure, I will stress that the data portion of our website can be very overwhelming when you take a look at it. So just make sure to make it a little bit easier for you, just type in the word motorcycle and it'll bring up all those tools, including the traffic safety fact sheet. So what does the data tell us? Well, the latest data tells us that in 2018, 4,985 motorcyclists were killed. And although that's a decrease of 5% from 2017, we all know that that's one too many. And we also know that there's still a lot of work to be done. We also know that, you know, not just looking at the fatality data, but the injury data is extremely important as well, because that sort of tells us our story. It tells us the severity of injury with a motorcyclist. And for us, as highway safety specialists and transportation professionals, it really kind of gives us an idea of what potentially our countermeasures could look like. Again, in 2018, an estimated 82,000 motorcyclists were injured. And again, you know, the trend that you actually see, which is good news, is there is a decrease overall between fatalities and injuries. However, for us, we know that our goal is really getting to that zero number. We know that there's so much more work that's yet to be done. I'm not going to go through and read every one of these data points, but I do want to stress that, you know, motorcyclist fatalities, you're more likely, 27 more times likely than in a passenger car, which is a pretty staggering fact. We also know that the data tells us that 28% of motorcycle riders involved in fatal crashes were riding without a valid motorcycle license or endorsement. When we also take a look at the data, we take a look and one of the unfortunate behaviors that we've seen, and the data tells us that there is an issue with riders riding involved with alcohol impairment. And again, 39% of motorcycle riders who died in single vehicle crashes in 2018 were unfortunately alcohol impaired. And I know that this is a lot of numbers we're throwing at you. We're going somewhere with that, but we really wanted to drive home the point that motorcycle fatalities and injuries and crashes are too high, and we really need to do something to make a difference. Motorcycle riders killed in traffic crashes at night were almost 3 times more likely and more frequently alcohol impaired than those killed during the day in 2018. When we take a look at one of the countermeasures that we know can help save lives is helmets. NHTSA estimates that helmets saved the lives of over 1,800 motorcyclists in 2017, and that 749 more lives could have been saved if all motorcyclists had worn their helmets. We know the importance and the value in universal helmet laws. So what does all this data tell us? I know I threw a ton of numbers at you. There's one number from all the numbers that I threw at you that I really, really want to sink home, and that's 4,985. That number is the number of lives lost in motorcycle crashes, the number of fatalities. So that's someone's mother, that's someone's father, brother, sister, husband. It's far too many. And although we've seen increase in fatalities across the board from 2018 as compared to 2017, we know that there's still a lot of work to be done. We know that there's areas that we can focus in, whether it's alcohol impairment, whether it's protective gear being used, protective equipment, personal protective equipment. We know that there's an issue with speeding. We look at all these factors, but we also know that 4,985 lives is 4,985 lives too many. And we know we can do a better job, which is really where NHTSA and the states come in. So NHTSA really works hard to collaborate with all of our stakeholders at the national, regional, and local, state and local level. NHTSA has 10 regional offices across the country. If you don't know who your regional liaison is, I would encourage you to get to know the regional office, to get to know what resources are available. NHTSA headquarters really helps to provide those resources to the regional and the state and the local level. Really get to know what that data is telling you. Understand the picture that's being painted with the data, and work to really hone your resources in on what the data is telling you. We also ask that you share the data. It's really hard to understand a problem unless you understand what the data is telling you. Use the data. Use the data in your work. Put those numbers out there. Shock everyone with how high those numbers are, and then compare that 4,985 to 0 and where we really want to be. And then we ask that you collaborate with us. Collaborate with our state Department of Transportation, collaborate with our stakeholders, and collaborate with NHTSA headquarters. And the one plug that I would add in this is if the state of Texas has not done a motorcycle state safety assessment, we ask that you would contact us for more information. This really kind of gives you an in-depth look of the program and the status of the program at the state level. This is something that's done independently. An independent panel of experts come in and assess the program at the state level. This is it's sort of similar. A lot of states call it a report card, although it's just us issuing recommendations, but we don't own the report. The state owns the report. The state has the opportunity to get technical assistance, to provide resources available to enhance that program at the state level. But the one other important thing that I wanted to stress is as a national partner in motorcycle safety, we do take it very serious. It is one of our top priorities. Again, I will remind you that May is Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month. So I would ask that you go onto that traffic safety marketing website, go on there, look at the resources that are available to you. And again, it's trafficsafetymarketing.gov. Our focus for the month of May is really focusing on education to raise awareness and promote motorcycle safety and vulnerability as a road user, taking a look at non-compliant DOT helmets and the importance of helmet use and protective gear, and how to identify a DOT compliant helmet. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to be here with you. I do have my staff member, LaCheryl Jones, who is our resident expert on motorcycle safety. I have her email address up here. So please feel free to reach out to her. She can put you in direct contact with your liaison in the Texas regional office for NHTSA. And anything that we can do to help you all out, I'm going to stick around if there are any questions that I can answer for you all today. But thank you so much for having me here today, Michael. Super excited. Anything we can do to help assist enhancing motorcycle riders' safety in the state of Texas, we would love to help out. Thank you so much. And I will turn it over to Michael. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it. Just two comments. You raised one, and we'll do questions after Yusef's presentation for both speakers. But one is, Michelle mentioned the regional office, and there is one. It's actually located up in the Dallas area, and it serves the several states around Texas and Texas. And I will say that they are very active in motorcycle safety. The two individuals that that interface with the motorcycling topics are also riders themselves. And we're really fortunate to have a very active regional office. The second thing you mentioned is the motorcycle safety assessment. And that, I believe, was done about 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago here in Texas. And we got pretty good marks at that time, but it definitely is time to revisit that to see how we've improved and where we need to improve as we move forward. So thank you for pointing those two things out.
Absolutely. And you all had done the assessment prior to the motorcycle strategic plan that NHTSA had released in 2019. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it was 2019. So a lot has changed. Obviously, you know, we're always looking for ways that we can help enhance those efforts at the state level. So I would encourage you to, I think it's time for another assessment. And I will add 2 plugs. The regional office in Texas is absolutely fantastic. The regional administrator, Maggie Gunnels, as well as the deputy regional administrator, Brian Jones, have both worked at NHTSA headquarters. They understand all of these areas at the national level, and they also understand it at the state and local level. And so do all of the RPMs in the Texas office. And then the one last thing that I will say about my staff, highway safety specialist, LaShawn Jones, is she's also an avid rider. So she understands and she gets it. So like I said, I was super excited to have her on my team. You guys will get to know her probably extremely well. She is taking an interest in Texas, and we're super excited. Thanks, Michael.
Cool. Thank you, Michelle. Okay, we'll move on to the second presentation. The presenter is Yusef Mohammed Shah. Yusef is manages a motorcycle research program at the Federal Highways Administration. I first met Yusef, I don't know, 5 years ago. We had a project with Federal Highways looking at infrastructure-based countermeasures to help improve rider safety. And I've always found Yusef, just like all the staff members at NHTSA and Federal Highways, to be incredibly helpful and knowledgeable about these areas. So we're really looking forward to getting a little bit of that knowledge here, Yusef. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Michael. So thank you very much for inviting me for today's presentation. As Michelle mentioned about a lot of data, and what I'm going to share with you is that how we use the data at Federal Highway Administration. And I'm going to talk about 3 studies which we have recently completed, and that will tell the audience that how the data is being used to save the lives of motorcyclists, and also to put programs in place so that the motorcycle crashes as well as injuries and fatalities of motorcyclists are decreased. So again, the title of my presentation is Federal Highway Administration's Motorcycle Safety Program. So this is the broad outline of my presentation. I'm just going to throw out one statistics. I think Michelle mentioned a lot of numbers, and my data is also based on what NHTSA data provided. I'm going to talk about the first study, which is the motorcycle crash causation study database. And then based on that, we did another 2 studies from those data. One was the countermeasure project in which Michael was involved. And then the second project was the new and novel highway signs, which are specifically targeted towards motorcycle community. Also, I'm going to talk some more about that study, that how the motorcycle community got involved in selecting the signs. Finally, provide you a list of 5 signs which we have selected, which could be implemented on the roads to decrease the motorcycle fatalities and crashes, and then how those signs could be implemented in terms of how DOT can use those 5 signs. And finally, I will open up for any questions you have. So, as many of you are aware, this is the graph which shows that the motorcycle fatalities have been increasing for a quite number of years. It is kind of leveled off. There was slight decrease in last 2 years, but still 10% of motorcycle fatalities comes to, as Michelle mentioned, more than 4,500 motorcyclists dying on the road, and which is not at all acceptable. So that's why we are putting in several programs to affect the motorcycle fatalities and to help motorcyclists in everyday ride, as well as to understand the road when they are riding on the road. So to address this problem, in 2017, Congress allocated $3.5 million to Federal Highway Administration, in which we initiated a study called Motorcycle Crash Causation Data. It was a pool fund program in which 6 state departments of transportation were involved: New Mexico, New York, Ohio, Oklahoma, Texas, and Wisconsin. And also American Motorcyclist Association was one of the member of the pool fund. In that study, what we did was we collected data in Orange County, California. The study was completed in 2017, and then the total sample size of the study was 351 motorcycle crashes, and then 702 controlled rider interviews were held. So 2 interviews of the riders were done at the location of the previous crash where it happened. So that's why out of 359 crashes, we have 702 control interviews. Basically, this was a very comprehensive study which was undertaken after more than like 30 years, which is more clinical in nature. That is, we collected all kind of data, that is the roadway data, the motorcyclist data, the helmet data, also the hospitalization data, and so on. It comprises of 14 volumes, and all volumes are available online. If somebody wants it, they can contact me and I can provide them the online volumes, as well as the data is also available for use for any researcher. These are the 3 reports which are published online. The first one is a comprehensive report of the motorcycle crash causation study, and then we also published volume 1 and volume 2. Volume 1 is a data dictionary which tells you what variables were collected in the study, and then the volume 2 is the actual coding manual which was used to collect the data. So the second study I am going to talk about is the identifying infrastructure-based motorcycle crash countermeasures. So after the motorcycle crash causation study was completed, we started verifying and looking at the data and analyzing the data from MCCS to see that how the data and the results could be used to do something about the motorcycle crashes. So that study was completed in 2018, in which we analyzed the MCCS data, and also we did a comprehensive literature review. We also conducted a subject matter expert workshop, which was also attended by private industry groups, university researchers, and so on. And the outcome of that subject matter expert workshop was that they came up with a list of 11 countermeasures which could be implemented. That was based on the discussion of the MCCS result as well as the literature review done. Out of those 11 countermeasures, Federal Highway chose 5 of the countermeasures which could be implemented and which we wanted to do further study on. So this is the table which shows the 5 countermeasures which were selected, As you can see on the left, it is a federal highway ranking, and the workshop which I mentioned, that is a ranking by the workshop. So we did select 3 of the top ranked by the workshop, and also we selected one of the bottom one as well as the 5th rank in the study. So the 5 countermeasures are high friction surface treatment, limited sight distance warning signs, pavement change warning sign, curve speed warning sign, and prohibitive sign. And also what the last column shows is that the 3 of those countermeasures were directly the result of the data analyzed from the MCCA study. So before implementing those 5 countermeasures, let me again go back to them. You will notice that out of these 5 countermeasures, 4 of them has something to do with signs on the road. So number 2, 3, 4, and 5 all involve some kind of signs which could be implemented on the road. So before actually implementing those 4 countermeasures, what we wanted to do is to do a human factor study of those signs to see that how those signs will be perceived by the non-motorcycle riders as well as the motorcycle riders. So we completed a 2-year study in which we did a comprehension and legibility testing of those signs. Also in that study, 50% of the subjects involved were motorcyclists. And then the output of that study was a prioritized list of highway sign alternatives that can be implemented on the road as the countermeasures. So the steps involved in that study was that, again, we did a comprehensive literature review, not just in the United States, but also looking at various signs being used all over the world, and to get a list of any novel signs which has not been used in United States. Then after getting that list together, we also wanted to actually get input from the large motorcycle community that what those signs, if implemented on the road, how they will be perceived by the motorcyclist. So what that allowed us to do is to narrow down the number of signs and which could be done for the human factor study, and then those signs were tested in a laboratory setting. Finally, after that study, we have a final recommendation of 5 signs which could be implemented on the road, and then we have published a final report and the technical brief which gives more information about the study. So what we did, as I mentioned, that before even conducting the human factor study, we sent out a questionnaire with those signs which we collected from all over the world, as well as by doing the literature review to get an input from the larger motorcycle community. I am sure that some of you must have received the questionnaire, and your input is also in this study. So we got total response of 1,025 motorcyclists. The demographic of that group was 18 years to 76 years in age. Their motorcycle riding experience ranged anywhere from 1 to 65 years. And also the respondents were 24% of them were female and 76% of them were male. So when we got the responses from those 1,025, this is the final list which was selected by that comprehensive questionnaire. There were 4 categories: motorcycle awareness sign, advanced curve signs, pavement change sign, and then limited sight distance sign. So what you are seeing on the right are all the signs which were then used for the human factor study. What you are seeing on that, the signs which are bound by the square box, those are the signs which are actually existing right now. But the other signs which are not in the box are a new set of signs which either has a plaque at the bottom which gives more information, or those signs have been slightly modified than the actual sign which are in the MUTCD guide. So we took this list of 19 signs and then did our final study of human factors evaluation. So for conducting the human factors test, we recruited 50 participants from Washington DC area. 25 of them were motorcycle riders and 25 were non-riders. The ages varied from 24 to 79 years of age. Again, 24% of them were female and 80% of them were male. And then their motorcycle riding experience varied anywhere from 2 to 56 years. Again, the reason we wanted to look at the 50-50 split of motorcycles versus non-motorcycle riders was that we wanted to see that when the specific motorcycle signs are implemented, how they are even perceived by the non-motorcyclists as well, and whether do they understand that what is being shown on the sign and how that signs are even going to affect the non-riders. So what this shows is that from that 50 participants, we asked them the question that what is your rider response, and what this chart shows is that 40% of them said that they rode motorcycle several times a week. 32% showed that they rode a couple of times a year. 16% showed that they rode several times a month. And then 4% of the participants showed that they rode bicycle almost every day. So when we invited those participants in a laboratory setting, we asked them two questions. First of all, we showed them the signs on the bigger screen, and then the sign was shown such that it was like 1,000 feet away from the actual rider. And then in the subsequent images, the signs were shown in such a way that the motorcycle is being ridden at 45 miles per hour. And then we asked them two questions. One is that at what point the message on the sign was visible to them. And then second question, we asked them that what that message conveyed. So we got the input from them for each of the sign, and then we did a comprehensive statistical analysis. We assigned the scores to each of the responses and then tabulated the results. So this is one of the tabulated results from that study for advanced curve signs. We calculated the effective ratings, and what this shows is that some of the signs showed higher ratings as compared to other signs, but there was not much difference between each of the signs. Although the first two signs which you are seeing are already existing signs, but the third sign showed some promise because that also the effective rating was quite high. So then we selected the signs which were new in design, and then we ranked them and then finally came up with the list of 5 signs which could be implemented. So this is the list of 5 signs. Again, some of the signs are in all the categories. So advanced curve warning signs showed the sharp arrow, and then the limited sight distance sign shows a stop sign and a curve sign. That is, a stop sign is ahead, and then on the second plaque it shows in the text form which shows stop ahead. And then in the motorcycle awareness sign, those two are the completely new signs which shows a motorcycle ridden, and also on the second one there is a plaque at the bottom which shows that this road is being shared with the motorcycle rider. So these 5 signs then could be used to be implemented on the actual roads. And practically how this could be used is that this is a broad implementation plan which the state DOTs can use. So what they can do is that as an initial as an initial phase, they can identify the sites where there are high motorcycle crashes. And then in order to implement any of those 5 signs or all of them, first they need to get a temporary permission from the MUTCD committee to install those signs. After the signs are installed, they also need to get a 5-year crash history for before condition of those sites. And then after the signs are involved, they should collect the data, crash data at those sites for at least 3 years period. And then based on those data, they can do a before and after analysis to figure out that those signs which were implemented, how effective they are. So that concludes my presentation. This is the final slide, which is showing that Federal Highway has a motorcycle crash causation study website where you can get more information about the study. And also for this final novel science, as I mentioned, we have published a technical brief as well as full report, which could be accessed using these two URLs.
Okay, so we'll leave that QR code up. If you just go back a little bit, Olivia, thank you. We'll leave that QR code up for just a few minutes if you want to snap that with your phone. But Youssef, if are we going to have your presentation available publicly?
Yes, it can be available
perfect.
publicly, sure.
Okay, so we'll have that up on the Look, Learn, Live website. So if you didn't get the links today, we can go back and get that. We do have a question from Nina. In the human factors study, did you analyze the motorcyclist data by race? And I think I might add to that by language, like were they native Hispanic, Spanish speakers or English speakers and stuff?
Unfortunately, no, we did not analyze by race or even by the language spoken. Our focus was very limited in the sense that we just wanted to see that when the signs are presented to the motorcycle as well as non-motorcycle community, how they are perceived. I'm sure that, further study can be done. I mean, our budget was limited at the time when the study was completed, and also the time was limited because we wanted to complete the study in a 1.5 year period so that the results could be put out. And then if the state DOTs are willing to adapt some of the results, maybe more study could be done.
Yeah. So if anybody has a question, please do enter it into the Q&A area. I guess I'll take a moment to ask another question of both Michelle and Youssef. So what are some of the next steps or activities that y'all have kind of planned in the motorcycle arena? Youssef, I know there's another project underway now, the Motorcycle Advisory Board and stuff. I wonder if you could each just give 30 seconds, kind of give us an idea of what's coming up in each of your organizations for rider safety.
Sure.
We'll start with
Youssef, would you like?
Yeah, Michelle, go ahead.
Thank you so much. So Michael, going back to the data, the question that you asked Youssef, I did want to make note, and I think I'd mentioned this in the presentation. One of the things that we're taking a look at is really drilling down and really trying to understand what the data is telling us. With that, we have expanded out and traditionally NHTSA headquarters, as well as a lot of the regional and state local level folks, when they look at the data, they take a look at our NTSA data, which gives us an amazing overview of what the landscape for motorcycle safety looks like. One of the things that we've done more recently, and we're hoping to incorporate that in any of the projects and initiatives we do moving forward, is taking a look at also at the NMSIS data and taking a closer look at that racial ethnicity data and breaking that down and making that a part of everything we do. As you know, we are a data-driven organization, so everything we do is based upon the data and what the data tells us. I would say for those folks that are also involved or interested in data, step outside of the box. Don't just look at the core set of numbers we've always looked at. Look beyond that. Take a look at helmet use. Take a look at how helmet use and universal laws can help enhance motorcycle safety within your state. One of the other things I will mention is, obviously, I think I mentioned that LaCheryl just got on board with us in July, and she really hit the ground running. But some of the things she's working on in the near future is developing more educational resources for identifying motorcycle DOT compliant helmets, because we do know that helmets can save lives. Yeah. Also, taking a look at that strategic plan that I mentioned. The strategic plan that was released, the 5-year motorcycle safety program strategic plan that was released in 2019. Believe it or not, it's about time to start to take a look at updating that. A lot has changed across the landscape. And unfortunately, that strategic plan, a lot of those initiatives are a little bit outdated already. So taking a look at that plan, how can we enhance our strategic plan? And then the other piece that I will tell you is that we are really working to step outside of the box and collaborate with more stakeholders and partners, not just within USDOT. We have an amazing relationship with Federal Highway, but also who are those non-traditional stakeholders, and taking a look at those individuals and how they can be part of this entire story and circle of motorcycle safety. So new relationships, collaboration, expanding our resources that we have available right now, educational resources, and then third, and most importantly, is really taking a look at analyzing the data and taking a deeper look, not just looking at the surface of what the data tells us, but taking it a step further and breaking that down. And while we break that data down, then putting that into play, because we know we can look at the data, but if we're not willing to implement and states aren't willing to adopt, then there's no use. So we still have a lot of work to do, but we're looking forward to partnering with states like Texas, continuing those relationships. And I just want to say it's so nice to see so many familiar faces on here that I used to work with in different areas. And shout out to Nina, as well as Terry Pence. So thank you guys so much, appreciate it. And I'm going to stick around for a little bit longer, or you have our email, and our slides will be available, as well as we're going to also send some videos that we were unable to actually upload today. But we will make sure that you all get those videos and are able to use those. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Michelle. Youssef, we have about a minute left.
Sure. So, I mean, as Michelle also mentioned, I mean, NHTSA has also used the MCCS data, and they have published a very comprehensive report on analyzing the MCCS data. Also, she mentioned about the helmet. So in MCCS, we also collected very comprehensively about 17 or 18 helmets of those 351 crashes, and some of the clinical tests were done on the helmet. So it also has a very rich data on how the helmets were performing in those crashes. Also, as Michael mentioned, Congress has also established a motorcycle advisory council. And what the charge of the advisory council is to look at the motorcycle issues comprehensively and then come up with a set of recommendations. So what Michael is a PI right now doing on one of the projects is that based on the recommendations from Motorcycle Action Advisory Council, they are working on that how to implement those 4 recommendations which Michael and his group are working on right now.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Youssef. And I want to thank you, Michelle and Youssef, for taking the time today. I know you all have busy schedules, and today is Saturday. It's a non-working day, so we really do appreciate your dedication to this topic. With that, I'd like to close out today's session. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, when you exit and get back to the auditorium, there's a session evaluation button. Please do click on that and just take a moment to go through and answer the few questions that we have. Thank you, and we'll see you in just a few minutes in another session.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.